Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. Coming up on the programme this week,
I'm an absolute firm believer that some people will experience some difficulties with their mental health in their life, whether following a bereavement, a relationship breakdown, financial worries, losing a job. You just may not be able to have recognised it.
People don't see a difference between them, the human being, and their thoughts and feelings, or their difficult thoughts and feelings. Yeah. They think or presume that that is just them.
People need to realise that the power and the relationship with our own thoughts, and if we can change that, it's a real game changer.
And I'll be reminding you how you can make connections with mental health organisations within your community. It's Mental Health Monday.
Yeah, welcome to the home of the UK's conversation about mental health. It's Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. I've had some really, really nice messages about the show in recent weeks. Thank you to everybody who's dropping a message. Genuinely gives me a little, it makes my heart do a little skip every time somebody says something nice about the programme. It doesn't happen as often as you might think. So when it does happen, I really, really appreciate it. So thank you for people who were saying nice things. The episode of CC Reagan still available to check out. And of course, all previous editions of the podcast, more than 230 of them, absolutely free. Got a fascinating conversation again today, which comes off the back of Time to Talk Day, which was last week, Thursday of last week, and I caught up with Phil Noon. Now, Phil is from an organisation called Evolving Mindsey. Now, they're a CIC, a community interest company, and they operate out of Knowsley on Merseyside. They do training provision for organisations, schools, colleges, but they also do a whole host of work as well within the voluntary sector, using the money they make from the more sort of industrial side of things to provide work within communities, mental health provision, and so on and so forth. But at the heart of Phil's story and the work that he does isn't just about various different things that you can do, that you can read about and learn about to change your mindset, to change about the way you think about yourself and about the world. It's also about his own experience and his lived experience, and using that to make a connection with the people that he's speaking to. Really interesting guy, fascinating conversation, and actually gives you a really interesting insight about where we're at on that sort of mental health front line at the moment. When we talk about mental health training, when we talk about small steps that you can take to change the way you think about yourself and about the world, that's absolutely what Phil is all about, and hopefully that will really come across in the podcast today. Phil Noon is his name, Evolving Mindsey, with a link at the end to the organisation that he works for, where you can find out some more info about them. The Facebook group is up and running. New members joining all the time. Mental Health Monday Facebook group. You can find that, guess where? On Facebook. And I'm on Twitter as well, at Mr. Mick Coyle. Keep the tweets coming in. Absolutely. We'll give some of you a mention in the upcoming weeks as well. Got some really interesting episodes on the horizon as well, in terms of various different conversations, which we're getting in the can as of next week. So that'll be next week. In fact, the next few weeks' podcast all boxed off and ready to go. So it should be a good few weeks coming and a decent run of podcasts on the show. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Phil kicks off this week by talking about the name Evolving Mindset, and this idea that actually it's not about a revolution of thoughts and changing the way we work, but it's that small step, that evolution towards making things a little bit better for ourselves and the people around us.
Yeah, what we're hoping for is that people just are thinking, feeling and behaving in different ways, which obviously with the cognitive triangle. So what we find is a lot of people that come to us, they're sort of stuck in their lives with regards to the mental health. And all we hopefully try and do is then give them some tools and strategies to help some unhelpful thinking. So the way we think, and our mindset towards things can hold us back. We can have this inner critic within ourselves, which then leads to low self-esteem, which can then lead to other knock-on things. So I absolutely agree. It's really key for us that we're helping people to evolve their mindsets to live a more productive life, whether that's in businesses, schools, or within their own personal lives. And for far too long, this taboo almost and the stigma of mental health, we need to evolve as society. For me, around the thinking around mental health, we need to shape it in a different way. Generationally, I'm nearly 50 years of age, and as a young man, I couldn't have talked to anyone around my mental health in that generation, where I'm more open to talk about mental health now. And I think, organisations, stuff that like you're doing, the stuff that we're doing, and lots of other amazing organisations out there are helping towards really changing the culture of it and it's hot on the topic. You know, everyone will say, and it is a bit of a cliche almost, but, you know, to have like days like yesterday, great. But organisations like us and other people like yourselves, it's our conversations every day.
Yeah.
And that's how we can really make change, is normalising these conversations around what we have when we're struggling. I bottled a lot of things up, Mick, if I'm really, really honest with you, and that was the problem. So by evolving our thinking towards that, we can evolving our mindset to think that it's okay to open up and talk, was in my own personal journey with mental health, was the game changer. When
Absolutely.
I started to open up and started to be emotionally genuine around what was going on, how I was thinking, which was how I was feeling as well. So yeah, hopefully that's a little bit of a background into, you know, some of the stuff that we do.
Absolutely. I think as well, that thing, isn't it, those, we touched on this a couple of weeks ago in terms of those sort of days where, you know, issues get raised and things like that. And I think what I tend to find is the conversation peaks at around those moments, but actually the conversation does carry on. There's a danger, isn't there, that you know, your mental health is a roller coaster that you've got to dive on that one day of the year where you're allowed to talk about your mental health, and then just cling on for the rest of the year before you come back to that day. And we know that that's not the case. And I think the normalization of the conversation, of people's awareness of organizations and the work that they're doing, not just on those days, but every single day, really sort of normalizes it in everyday thinking, and doesn't require someone to think, well, I can't talk about my mental health because it's not suicide prevention day, or it's not time to talk day. Any day is a good day to talk about mental health. Now, we're going to get a sense of this a little bit later on in terms of the work you did, but you used a phrase before. I just wanted to pick you up on it. You talked about the cognitive triangle.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure that any kind of jargon, we've got to guide people through. So just tell us about what that cognitive triangle is.
So obviously, the cognitive triangle it's part of the CBT. If anyone who's ever been through it, and there's a lot of stuff now that's pulling out it, and it's deeply enrooted into all of our support sessions. That the way that we think, which is the triangle, influences the way that I feel. Yeah. So if I'm thinking positive, I can't help but not feel positive. If I'm thinking negative, I can't help but feel negative. How we feel then influences the way we act or we behave. Yeah. So to put that into some context, is I'm getting a job interview, and in my own mind, my inner critic is saying to me, "You're not going to get this job. You're not good enough. Look at all these other people in the room. They're more qualified than you. They're better than you. Yeah, you know." So if I'm thinking that, I'm feeling it. I can't help but feel it. What I'm thinking. Yeah. So then I'll usually go in, and my behavior will mirror the way that I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. So what happens with our mental health is sometimes we've been going to real sort of spirals of negative thoughts in the pattern. We're constantly stuck in that triangle of thinking negative, feeling negative, and behaving negative. So what we're trying to do is break the chain somewhere. And that's where we really introduce some of our really good strategies with some of our counsellors, with some of our team, that to try and break this unhealthy chain that we have, and replace it with positive thoughts, and it's not a case of clicking our fingers and isn't the world great again. It's a much bigger thing that you need to work on yourself. But it's really keen that people need to realize that the power and the relationship with our own thoughts, and if we can change that, it's a real game changer.
See, I think, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that cognitive behavioural therapy, the triangle there you've discussed, the understanding of that, which, let's admit, people in the general population, certainly people I grew up with, wouldn't understand that. And I think, and this is the crux, it was the crux of my experience, and I genuinely believe it's probably the crux of other people's experience, that people don't see a difference between them, the human being, and their thoughts and feelings, or their difficult thoughts and feelings. Yeah. They think or presume that is just them. And actually, what you've just described there is that self-awareness to think, I'm feeling like this at the moment, and it's causing me to act and behave in this particular way, which is obviously giving me these sorts of outcomes. I think a lot of people in the general population, when they feel bad, and this was my experience a number of years ago now, they just think that's me. That's me. I feel bad because that's how I feel about the world, and that's the way the world treats me. And actually, that just small step into thinking these thoughts and feelings actually exist in a slightly different bubble, I think is a huge leap to take. But as soon as you do that, you give yourself a break, don't you? You give yourself a break to go, all right, oh, well, yeah, but I did think there was somebody else in there, but it was just this other person was always the one who was in charge or calling the shots or was, and actually to be able to picture that in your mind, I genuinely believe would fundamentally change everybody's mental health almost instantly.
Yeah, and some of the like one of the strategy we use is sometimes when people are well known, I'm really open about my own mental health, that I have to have that. You use the word self-awareness. It's a game changer for me. I have to be aware of where I am in my mental health continuum. Am I well? Am I unwell? Am I on that path to becoming a little bit unwell, and knowing what that looks like, and put strategies in place. So that awareness is key, because sometimes people can tell me good things and positive things, but if I'm not well, I don't believe them. So a little strategy, what we do is we reach out to ask people to trust the people who they trust, to write down what they like and admire about us and what they actually feel. And I put it in a little box, and it's a true strategy. So when I'm waking up and I look at myself in the mirror and say, where am I today? Yeah, with regards to my mental health. And some days I know I'm not doing too well here. I feel really low, or I feel a bit down. I go and reach for my box, I make a cuppa, and I put it down, and I open up my box, and I'll have a message off my son saying, you're the number one dad in the world. I'll have a message off my wife saying, you're loved, you matter, you're my world, you're my rock, you're this. I guarantee you I don't finish the cuppa without closing the box. That's how quick it can be, because I don't believe it myself sometimes. I can try and put this strategy in for me, and try and do this cognitive triangle, try and break it. Sometimes I need the thoughts of what other people think about me to snap out to me. That's my own intent, that's my strategy. It may work for others, it may not, because I firmly believe is we've all got to find our own coping strategies, our things that will lift us, that will get us out of when we're feeling moving on that journey of becoming a little bit unwell. And we all will at some point in our lives. I'm a firm believer, I'm an absolute firm believer that some people will experience some difficulties with their mental health in their life, whether following a bereavement, a relationship breakdown, financial worries, losing a job. You just may not be able to have recognised it. I have only realised in my late 40s how much of an anxious young man I was, because I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't know what panic attacks was. I was uneducated. Now I was fortunate to play, low-level professional football for a number of years, and I was petrified. I can remember going back to this 18, 19, 20-year-old man, and I was petrified. I was petrified of the expectations of everyone. I was petrified of not letting my family down, and I'm doing well. But I was living in a world of anxiety, living in a world of absolute panic and anxiety. I didn't know what it was. I was having panic attacks, couldn't speak to anyone about it. And it's only as you get older and you educate yourself around mental health, oh my God, I've lived all my life with anxiety and didn't even know what it was. I couldn't put it into a box. I couldn't understand it. But if I bloody pulled my thigh muscle playing football, I knew what that was. Does that make sense? And that's the thing between our physical and mental health. That's got to change for me. It's got to shift.
I think so, and I think that's when people say, "Oh, it should be like if you break your leg, you know where to turn." Absolutely, that's right. I think the thing that sort of analogy undermined slightly is that actually the arsenal and the weaponry that you can use to tackle an issue is actually, I think, much more diverse when it comes to your mental health. From all the conversations that I'm having, if a doctor breaks the leg, if you break your leg playing footsie, a doctor, the surgeon looks and they use their training and their textbooks and their previous experience to fix it back into play. What they don't do is go, before I fix your bone, let me tell you about the experiences that I had when I broke my leg in the past. You go, come on, doc, my bone's sticking out, me skinny. You need to get it. You need to get it back in. But actually, from a mental health point of view, you can use the training, you can use the textbooks and the academic experience. Plus, you can bring your own personal experience to it. So you can talk about, cognitive triangles up on a whiteboard, if you like. But I imagine as well, using your own personal story, Phil, to talk through your experiences makes a huge difference then, that people then go, this isn't just a theory or something I've read in a book. This is something which somebody else is living, that other people have lived as well.
Yeah, we do a lot of. I don't want us to become like an organisation known as Men's Mental Health, because we're not. We actually get far more females accessing our support than males. But we do sort of do a lot of work with trying to overcome men's mental health. This age gap between 40s and 50s, which we all know are the highest rates of suicide within the UK. So we do a lot of programs. Just finished one in Knowsley itself. We supported over 40 odd men, and we have to be really creative in which way we do that, because I say come to this mental health workshop, and there'll be no one walking through the door. So what we've done is come and get a free qualification in mental health as part of this project. Oh, they'll get there. Then I usually open up with, this is what we're going to be doing. This is my personal experience with mental health. Set the right conditions in the room, and you'd be amazed. They say that men don't talk. You'd be amazed that they do, given the right circumstances. But I've almost had to do it in a way where they're coming for something else. But 50% of the people in the room will actually say, after I've opened up and talk about my journey, go, maybe not right away, but at some point within that 2-day qualification, actually, yeah, I've really struggled and over, because they've built that confidence, because they know it's a safe space, it's a non-judgmental space. And that's what I think we need to do, not just for men's mental health, but for all mental health, is create these safe spaces, create these areas where people can come to and overcome the barrier, because we always fear of what people are going to judge us when we do. I stand up every time and do it, and I'm really comfortable with it now. The first time I've done it, I was a real mess, but I've normalised it for myself, if that makes sense. Where I've accepted it myself, so I'm comfortable talking about it the same way. I went to the Everton match on Saturday against. It makes no difference to me now, because I've normalised it within myself. The media people in my family understand it now, and I've understood my journey and the difficulties with it, but know how they can support me if I do start to struggle again. And I think that's key.
I think that phrase is, people use the phrase, don't they? Hard to reach. They're hard to reach. And they're talking often about working class blokes in their 40s. And there's hard to reach. And I think there's a phrase, a more appropriate phrase is too lazy to reach, which is that, I mean, you've done it. I believe that I've done it. And I know countless organizations who've done it as well, who actually have found really strong connections with those groups, and have sort of smashed that. There's a preconception that these men won't want to talk if you put them into a room and get them to talk. Almost everyone I speak to who interacts with that particular sort of cohort of men has nothing but really positive things to say. Plus, the other thing is that often they're quite well placed in terms of skill sets, life experience, to then offer and almost become quite evangelical about their experiences and how they can get involved in men's sheds organizations or footy clubs or volunteering organizations. That actually, if you make the effort, and you don't get lazy about it, if you make the effort to make a connection with that group, you find that they're a really responsive group. You've just got to find those techniques, those ways to get into it, and you've obviously managed to do that.
Yeah, we've tried lots of different ways. We've put them workshops on and no one's turned up. So instead of just doing what you're saying, see, people aren't interested in this, and being defeated by it, it's like, well, okay, well, what else? What other way can we do? Let's be proactive. Let's look at different ways in which we can engage, rather than just, see, we said, build it and they'll come. Well, we built it and no one come. So I'll see, it's hard to reach. No one's going to do it. But no, we'll try it in different ways. So then we're going to do a men's walking group from this area, and we're going to do 10 walks in the area. Join any one of them, really promote it on the social media, really promote it within our communities. And it started off with a couple in the first week. By the end of it, there was about 25 people on the walk. Yeah. They've now, which is what we're all about, I hope, or certainly I am, is that they're now doing their own walks away from Evolving Mindset. They've formed their own community, they've formed their own they've met people that they feel comfortable in doing. So they're arranging their own walks, they're going to Snowdon, they're doing this, they're doing that. And it's great for us to see it, because we've just facilitated something along the way that then they can go and run with it. And if that works, we don't want any kudos from it. We're not interested in it. It's about helping people, it's about enabling people to be able to access support and then go away and do things what they want. The main thing is people are getting support, whether that's with me, whether that's with you, whether that's with any other organisation. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that people who require the support, that need to open up, do. Because I was really, as society, we're always focusing, we're always putting this message out that if you're struggling, you need to reach out. If you're struggling, you need to reach out for help. Reach out for help, reach out for help, reach out for help. And, that's absolutely the right message to be saying. But me personally, I didn't want to reach out to anyone. Yeah. I needed someone to reach in. And that's what we're trying to do with our community groups. And that's what we're trying to do within the whole of our boroughs is educate people, reduce the fear, understand what people are fearful of for reaching in, because they haven't got the skills, competence and confidence to do it. Give them that. Reassure them that they're doing the right thing. Give them all the tools to do it, to be able to reach in. Because it's far more powerful for someone reaching in, spotting the signs and having the confidence to be able to reach in and say, I see you. I see you're not right. I'm here for you. Because for me, I know myself, I had too much ego, I had too much pride, I had too much all this. I wouldn't have done it. So it's a case of, yeah, it's great to have that message, but wouldn't it be also great to have a message that as society, we can reach in? Because we'll always seen them. If I go back all my life, I've seen people who've struggled and without the training, I didn't feel confidence, fearful of that I'd say the wrong thing. I was fearful of what they'd tell me. I think of me taking all this on, or do I want this in my headspace, what they're going on, and that I wouldn't know what to do if they said this. I wouldn't know. So all of this is fear, and it's just a lack of understanding and education around that situation. And if we can make people more informed, I think that's a key aim of what we're trying to do at the moment. Is not focusing on people reaching out, but our society's being able to reach in as well to meet it that way. Because some people will reach out. Wouldn't it be great that we could reach in as well and have a society have them skills? And I think it's that for me is what it needs to change. And it is. It's just we've still got a long way to go, as you know. We're doing great strides. A lot of organisations doing amazing things, not just us and yourself. But there's still a long way to go. And yeah, let's celebrate the journey we took so far. But let's just keep pushing. And we're really passionate about doing that as well within our community.
And in terms of that, in terms of the conversation that you have to reach in, I think people need to know as well that doesn't mean you've got to have a PhD in counselling or psychotherapy or whatever it is. That actually reaching in is about asking the right questions, knowing services that you can signpost to, like the Hub of Hope, and actually to then open up that conversation that way. And that's the thing that sometimes people think, well, I never have any negative mental health problems, so why do I need to bother? Because it might be happening to your friend, your brother, your mum, your sister, your wife, your husband, whoever. They might need your help. And what are you going to do if that situation occurs? And what are you going to say?
And that's it. And we do that with a lot of people. So, part of it in a previous life almost, I've trained probably thousands, and I genuinely mean thousands of people in CPR. In basic life support, and I would someone to support someone who's choking, or someone who's having a cardiac arrest, all these sort, chest compressions, all that sort of stuff. So not only have I done it that many times, I've only ever had to use it in real life, I think once, twice, I think, my whole life, I'm nearly 50. Yeah. So, but I've still got them skills. Something happens now, bam, I go into autopilot. I still know what to do to someone in crisis that needs support. Yeah. So what's the difference with someone who's experiencing mental health difficulties to have the same skill set that I may never need, or I may only need to use once or twice, but could save a life? That's how powerful it can be with the right conversation. The same way as someone falls on the floor and you need to do CPR, it can save a life. It can keep someone, it can preserve life until emergency services get there. We want people to think the same about that reaching in conversation. You're not a superhero, you're not a PhD, you're there, but you may just have them skills or be able to have enough of a conversation to keep the person safe, preserve a life, and signpost to professional support or get support from emergency services at that time. And you're absolutely right, you'll never know when you need that support. It could be a son, daughter, brother, uncle, your next door neighbour, yourself, even by yourself. When I say by yourself, it's great to have that knowledge yourself, to have that awareness of, I can spot the signs of symptoms in myself, never mind someone else. So yeah, that's what we try and do on some of our courses and training as well. It's just trying to say, I always ask people, where's your first aid box in work? And they say, oh, it's behind there in the canteen. What colour is it? Green. What's in it? I'll go around the room. What's in it? Scissors, plasters, this. Where's your mental health first aid box? Silence. We're going to receive far more psychological injuries in your life than what you ever will do physical. But it's just, we try to just really do it in ways to let people understand how much we prioritize our physical health than our mental health. I put a bandage around my head and put like tomato sauce in it and walk into the training room. I say, what do you think? Oh my God, what are you about? If this was real life, you'd be like, oh my God, what have you done to your head? What have you done to your head? I get all the sympathy in the world. Take the bandage off, walk out, walk back in again. No one can see anything. Yeah, I'm in real life. But in a scenario, I'm really suffering with my depression. You just can't see it. You don't understand it. And I'm trying to just say, but if I put the bandage back on again now with the blood, you'd understand it. Oh, that must be terrible. That must have hurt. That must have this. And so always trying to do innovative ways just to try and get people to go, oh yeah, we do. We prioritize our physical health so much more than our mental health. And we need to try and level that up in some way.
Can I ask you about obviously the training sessions that you do, organizations, schools, youth groups, and so on and so forth? What is the expectation that's sort of placed on that training? From the people who are sort of like ordering it and bringing you into a space. Are they going, can you fix these kids? Can you, or do they go, we're aware of one or two issues around X, Y, or Z. Can you give us some steps? Because I guess you go in and going, I can fix all your problems and all your mental health issues will go away. It doesn't really work like that, I guess. So how do you sort of both, I guess if you were doing like a sales pitch, you'd do it about the delivery, but then the promise of the return and so on and so forth. How do you pitch that in terms of the expectation, and then how you can then deliver that over a period of time?
We genuinely, if it was community, people who are reaching out for support, we do say one thing, and we just say, we can't promise to fix all your problems, but we can promise you won't have to face them alone. That's what we say. But you're here, we're going to try and work through what's going on, but we can't, no one can wave a magic wand and fix things. That's not what the service is about. It's a real support platform for people that may be on waiting lists to get to certain criteria, secondary cares, whatever it is, maybe not quite reaching the threshold for secondary cares or IAPS or all that sort of stuff. But there's a huge gulf. That's why we exist. The gap between GP services to secondary care or IAPS services, that gulf is huge. I was one of them people in that gulf. And we just wanted to position ourselves somewhere that could offer our mental health nurses, but they're not there from a clinical perspective. They're there solely from a support. That they work on wards, they work on mental health wards and stuff, but they're not there in that capacity to fix, prescribe, or we're there just to support with that level of expertise that they've got that can spot and help, guide, in almost like a waiting for the stepping stone. If I was going into organisations, it's really upselling them that your staff are going off. The cost of the UK economy is ridiculous for work-related stress, depression, and anxiety. Now, organisations can do something about that, but usually they'll wait until they've gone off, and then it's like, okay, we'll offer them some occupational help, we'll offer them support now, we'll offer them this. Now, the average person will be offered 22.4 days or something like that. So it's very reactive, and it costs organisations a lot of money. I don't really want to look at, businesses understand that. So they're, oh yeah, do a business case around that. But I said, but you've got an obligation of a duty of care as an employer to be doing this anyway, regardless of the cost. It's absolutely the right thing to be doing, to looking after the psychological health and well-being of your staff. It's actually in law, in the Health and Safety at Work Act. This is not new, what we're proposing here. We're proposing you to put a stake in the ground where you are now and make positive steps towards a positive mental health workplace, and having it and embedding it within the organisation so your staff feel they can come and support you. Because the latest survey out there is only 13% of all employees in a huge survey, I can get you the details, feel comfortable to actually open up in the workplace around after suffering with the mental health. So 13%. But I've had some really supportive leaders in the past, and I did open up to them. But I've also had a leader that I would never open up to in a million years, if that makes sense. So or in an organisation, of the culture of the organisation, so that's the benefit. And it's educating our leaders that they need to be in this modern world, and with the pandemic, especially what's happening, everyone's experienced, or most of them experienced some levels of difficulty at some point throughout the pandemic, and leaders are equipped to reach in and have them conversations. They're not equipped to do a sensitive return to work because it's a toxic exercise for most, from our experience. So it's not only from a cost-saving initiative, because if you do all the right stuff and the staff reach in to a leader and say, listen, I'm really struggling here and I've got X, Y, Z going on and I don't want it to impact my work, blah, blah, blah. And we can be supportive in that way and make reasonable adjustments like what we would do with a physical injury. You're going to stop that employee going off. That employee then go, but we don't reach in or we don't be as supportive. The employee then goes off. We know on average is going to be off for 22.2 days. Usually they'll go, right, his work or her work's going to go over there to you, Phil, and you're going to get some of that. So then now it's adding on to my pressure because someone's gone off with it. So it's that domino effect of what happens. Or we bring an agency at practically double the cost. You're going to get substandard work because they're there for the shift or a couple of shifts and not for. So and it's just trying to explain the benefits to people of just having a positive mental health attitude and culture within the workplace. Yeah, from a cost saving, because that's what they understand. But more from me, from a moral and obligation of it's the absolutely right thing to do anyway, without the cost-saving initiatives, if you want to be a good employer and an effective leader.
Absolutely. A couple of weeks ago on the podcast there, Good Shaper on, actually, people want to check that out as an episode that looks into those details around productivity, staffing levels, more people taking time off because of their mental health than for COVID last year, which is absolutely a huge number. Is a tricky question for you, Phil. It might not be tricky, but we'll see. Have you ever been doing a session? Have you ever thought, not who are the group who you felt struggled to connect with, but have you ever done a session where you've thought, maybe I'm going to have to just mix this up a little bit in terms of how I make that connection? You know, when people go, oh, you sound that fella. Yeah. Oh, I understand what he's talking about. Yeah, Phil's all right. Is there a moment within each group where you kind of notice that people go, oh, right, I get it now. I see where this guy is coming from. And what are those trickier groups to reach, or what are those, organizations, maybe you don't name names, where you've thought, oh, these lot, they're not quite there yet, and then you bring them in.
You've got to be adaptive. So I won't mention any organizations, but we do a lot of sort of really male environments. So an organization will bring them in because they want to do the right thing by the staff. So then we're sitting there with 15 warehouse blokes sitting there. They're all bloody, they're really not interested in what we're going to have to say. And it's how we're coming now. If we stand up there corporate, they'll lose them. So it's just changing adapting the style, sitting down. What's going on, lad? Yeah. And actually going more, adapting the way our approach to it rather than PowerPoint structured, really. We really have to adapt the sessions. And another one is with the amazing organization, Lee Cooper Foundation. We, a 50-year-old bloke stood up there talking to young people. Sorry, massive disconnect, and it wasn't working. And I tried to be sort of thinking where they're not getting where they're not relating to me. So we're actually doing a project together with the Lee Cooper Foundation called Evolving Mindsey. And what this is all around is yet loads of support, but we're bringing through almost a little army of young facilitators that can go out that could relate to a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, rather than a 50-year-old trainer, because I've got all the experience and expertise to do it. The young people haven't got that. So it's like a mentoring project to equip younger people with these really good facilitation skills and knowledge around mental health so they can educate other people and do support sessions for others. I think is that what you were sort of aiming at?
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting, isn't it, that as this field, which is obviously, expanding and will continue to expand at an exponential rate, hopefully in the future, you've got to be able to have those connections. But it's interesting that, even at, your level, where are me and you going to be in 10 years time? And then how are we then going to relate to 18, 19-year-olds? At the same time, I believe that 18, 19-year-olds will have grown up as well in a slightly different environment that we grew up in. They'll have been maybe a little bit more mental health aware. And actually those connections that you can make with a young person, who might then be in their late 20s or whatever it is, I think that's really important, isn't it? That it's not just the group of people who do it now are like the gatekeepers to mental health facilitation and training for the future. That it's about now this evolution of people coming on board, and then the new lived experience of young people, the Instagram generation and all of those sorts of people. their understanding of what a young person might be going through, of course, is absolutely crucial. In the same way that, you would make those connections, with the warehouse workers, because, you probably worked in those sorts of environments with those sorts of people, and it works at that level. And I think that's the other thing, that these are great opportunities for young people as well, who are thinking about, I want to make a difference in life, I want to help people, that something like the mental health world can offer them all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some amazing young people out there, and some amazing young people who are involved with the Lee Cooper and ourselves, that, they've been through real difficulties, and they've got an absolute passion and desire, the same way we both have, to make this change, make it future generations. They're saying, I want to make sure so many friends are reaching out, and the bravery, even from a young age, to share their own experiences and lay themselves bare at an early age, to say, I'm comfortable if this, I've done this in the way of wanting to help others. And I think that's really powerful. And, I think our passion towards mental health and the change is probably comes out of our pause, if I'm honest with you. But there's so many other good young people out there as well. And that's the future of it. That's the future of change. Hopefully what we're doing as part of this project is just giving a helping hand to build confidence, build skill sets, and be able to do so. They work with our mental health nurses and our experienced trainers to develop them skills over a period of time. With the overall aim of the project is that we step away and they're standing there alone going, I'm taking this. But it's like steps towards that. So we're not just going, right, sink or swim. It's like a proper mentoring program over a, probably 6-12 month period of just developing people. We're actually giving them all free qualifications. Part of it, they get a level 3 teaching and trainer qualification, which is huge. We've footed the bill for that ourselves out of the profits and stuff. And that's how it's important, exactly what you're saying, as our future generations coming up, we're not just looking inwards, we're looking at it, we're trying to see a bigger picture and create change within our communities. And, you'd like it to be up and down the country, but all you can do sometimes is look after your own area, and if it works, share the learning. We're not in competition with other people. But if it works, somebody else roll it out somewhere else. We're not precious over it, because that's how you'll create changes, collaborations with others, rather than being inwards and thinking, oh, this is what we're doing and only us can do it. Well, if it works, share the knowledge, share the learning, and it could help other areas and other people as well.
Absolutely. Phil, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you today on the program. Thank you so much for your time. Best luck with everything you're doing with the organizations that you work in, where they're working for. And it sounds as if everything you're doing is absolutely right in terms of the people that you're targeting, the organizations that you're able to reach out to, and obviously the connections you're able to make with those individuals. And, if we can scale, that up through other organizations, and everyone gets an opportunity to have these sorts of conversations within a workplace, college event, whatever it would be, I genuinely think we'll be in a really, really different place, and an ongoing conversation as well, not just a one-off workshop or a session, something where you embed it into either your business or your life, that you'll go, you know what, we need time to do this, we need time to take a look at this, we need time to reflect on X, Y, or Z. I think it's absolutely, absolutely huge. People want to make connections with Evolving Mindset, Phil, what can they do?
They can visit on our website, which is evolvingmindset.co.uk. You can email us at evolvingmindset@outlook.com. Type us into YouTube, type us into the support videos, type us into a Google search. I think we come up first. If we don't, I think there's a band in America called Evolving Mindset as well, or something like that. It's funny, when we launch it, so like 70% of our listeners on podcasts are from the States. And I think it's because there's a band over there called Evolving Mindset. So I think they're tuning in, thinking that it's going to be something to do with that band in America. And then, a Scouts are talking about mental health. And I think they get intrigued more than anything.
Yeah. I go, well, I wasn't going to listen, but actually this guy seems to know what he's talking about. I love this conversation.
I think the accent sort of draws people as well for some reason. Is that English? They're probably asking themselves.
Phil, dude, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you speaking to us today, and all the best for the future.
And you, thanks for having me.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Thanks for checking out Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. You can also find me, Mick Coyle, on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if you want to speak to somebody about your mental health, you can do so. The Samaritans, free to call on 116 123. You can find mental health services where you are. Just look for the Hub of Hope. Type in your postcode. It'll find those mental health services close to you. And for support in a crisis, you can text SHOUT to 85258. That's if you're experiencing a personal crisis, you're unable to cope and need support. Shout to 85258. That's a text line. Do get involved in those services. In an absolute emergency, always remember the number to call is 999. Thanks for downloading the podcast this week. We'll be back next week with more Mental Health Monday.